We we may annul vows on the Sabbath, but we may seek release from vows for things that are necessary for the Sabbath. We
Mhm.
may stop up a window, or we may measure a patch or a mikvah. An incident occurred in the days of Reb Tzadok's father, in the days of Abashol ben Batnis, that they stopped up the window with an earthenware jug, and they tied a cup with a rush to ascertain whether a vat had an aperture of a handbreadth or not. And from their words, we learned that we may stop up, measure, and tie on the Sabbath.
Okay, Hadran Alech, Maseches Shabbos.
You want to Eruvin now and then go
Yeah,
back?
Eruvin. Yeah, we'll come back later.
Okay. Aleph Gimel. The crossbeam of which they spoke is wide enough to hold an ariach. An ariach is half a brick measuring 3 fists. It's sufficient for the crossbeam to be 1 fist wide to hold an ariach lengthwise. Wide enough to hold an ariach. Is that right, ariach? Yeah. Ari, ariach. Ariach is what it's. Okay, I'm looking at the Hebrew, right? And strong enough to hold a ariach. Rabbi Yehuda says wide, even if it is not strong.
Hold on, hold
If
on,
it
hold on,
was,
hold on, hold on, hold on. This is me. This you've jumped.
I'm
Go
reading
back
your
to Aleph Aleph. You're meant to be doing Chazara and Aleph Aleph.
Okay. Uh, an alley of way that is higher than 20 cubits must be lowered. But Yehuda says it need not. And one which is wider than 10 cubits must be narrowed. However, if it has the form of a doorway, even if it is wider than 10 amot, it is not be that narrowed. The adjustment of an alley, Ben Shammai says a pole and a crossbeam. But Basil says a pole and a crossbeam. Rabbi Elliot says the two poles. A disciple in the presence of Rabbi Akiva said the name of Rabbi Ishmael ben Shammai and Beis Hillel did not differ concerning an alley which is narrower than 4 cubits, that it may be adjusted with a pole or a crossbeam. Concerning which they differ, concerning one which is wider than 4 cubits and up to 10 cubits. Ben Shammai says a pole and a crossbeam, but Beis Hillel says a pole or a crossbeam. Said Rabbi Akiva, they differed in both cases. Okay.
Okay. Right now, Hakora Shamru. What is the beam that we're speaking about? How what qualifies as a beam? Can it just be like a string, or does it have to be something more solid? And the answer is
Right.
it has to be something more solid. The fact, just tangentially, the fact that we have all these, we're used to seeing Eruv poles going around with just a wire going across. That's because it's Surah Pesach that we're doing over there. It's not, it's
Mhm.
which is now a different. That's a different halacha. When we're talking about the Korah, we're talking about when it's just a Korah according to Beis Hillel, then there, and in that case, just a Korah is not good enough having done a wire. Okay, so the Korah that we're talking about, Rechava Kedei Lekabel Ariach. Its width must be enough to accept an Ariach. And what is an Ariach? Ariach Chatzi Livne. It's a half brick. Shel Shlosha Tfachim. So 1.5 tfachim. So now it's got to
Mhm.
be able to, you've got to be able to balance a half brick on top of it. And that's 1.5 tfachim. Daya Lekora Shetehei Rechava Tefach. And it just has to be one tefach wide, so that there's an extra tefach on kedei lekabel ariach leorko, so that the ariach could put its length across the width of the beam.
You're right.
Means that you've got half a tefach projecting, and that means a quarter of a tefach on either side. If you
There's a picture here. It shows it with the little dots and all. Do you have a
okay.
picture?
Yeah, hold it
Right.
up to the camera. Let's see. Yeah, that's kind of what oh, actually, that's interesting. They've done it differently. They've done it going with the lengths running along
Well,
with the lengths aligned. Kahati discusses that there are two possibilities. That it could be the lengths are aligned. It could be that the widths that the length that it's length across the width.
look.
And to me, it seems more logical to say the length across the width. Otherwise, why mention the length of the area? Because if you're putting the length along the length of the Korah, then why would you mention the width? Why would you mention it? It just seems more logical that you can see, okay, so it's got a tefach of width, and that's enough to hold a tefach and a half of length across it. Okay. Rechava kedei lekabel ariach. And the width must be enough to hold an ariach, as we just said in the previous Mishnah. Ubria kedei lekabel ariach. It's got to be strong enough to hold an ariach. Okay, it can't just be something flimsy that's thick. Um, okay. So like a whole bunch of reeds or something. But Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says, "Rechava afal pisha ena bria." Even if it's thick, even if it's not strong. So he would be happy for for like a very lightweight material to be used, just because all he's saying is that it's supposed to be there as a visual cue. We've just entered into the alley.
Right.
Where
Right.
Chachamim are saying, nah, it's got to last. It's got to be like a permanent structure. It can't be something that's just going to blow away in the wind or fall if you put any weight on it. Haisa shel kash v'shel kanim. So Mishnah Hay is a continuation of Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Okay, because Rabbi Yehuda is the one who's saying it doesn't matter if it's strong or not.
No.
Okay, and he says if it was made of straw or of reeds, we look at it as if it was made out of metal. Akuma, if it's crooked, in other words, if it's bowed, it's curved and so there's this what's the word? It droops in the middle.
Yeah.
We look at it as if it's straight. Done. Continuing Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that I don't
Yeah,
care
the
how strong
picture
it is.
here. Picture here shows.
Oh, even if it's crooked, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
fine. Kilo pshuta agula. Oh, excuse me. Ro'in osaki ilu hi merubas, and if it has a circular cross section, right? So it's not a classic beam, but it's made from a round pole. Okay,
Right.
merubas. And how do you know then if it's got a tefach in its width? So again, we bring out classic Mishnaic geometry and approximate. Kol sheyesh behekefo shloshet tvachim. Anything where if you take something like a measuring tape and measure around its circumference and it says 3 tvachim, that's close enough to say that it's a tefach in diameter, right? Pi is approximately equal to 3. Okay, yesh bo rochav tefach. And so if it's got the three circumference and it's got a width of 1, and that's close enough. By the way, have I ever pointed out to you the Graz no, the thing about the Yam Shel Shlomo? It's
No.
described in Melachim base, when Shlomo HaMelech is building the base of Mikdash. It gives all these measurements, and there's one of the kalim of the Mikdash is called the Yam Shel Shlomo. It's this big circular bath, which is described in the Torah as being 30 as being sorry as being 10 amas across, in other words, a diameter of 10 amas,
Right.
and the kav, a line going around the outside, in other words, a circumference which is 30 amas. But the interesting thing about it is that's where the Mishnah is taking its cue from, that it's approximately a ratio of 3 to 1.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at, I'm going to just share a calculator with you now, because this is actually just very, very cool. Um, okay, here's my calculator, and I will share it with you.
Mm.
Okay,
There we go.
right, you
Right.
see my calculator. All right, so
Right.
the word kav, kuf vav, in gematria, so the word kav is a line, okay,
Right.
and that in gematria is kuf vav is 106, okay, and the kuf vav hey, but it's written in the Torah as kuf vav hey, which is 111. Okay, so we
Okay.
know
All right.
that the ratio that kri is to ksiv as appearance is to reality. Okay, so now if we know that if we're approximating that the ratio of circumference to diameter is 3, but let's divide by kav without the hay, which is 106, and we
Right.
multiply it by 111, right, which is the kav with the hay.
3.14.
One 3.1415. That's pi to five
That's
significant.
pi, yeah.
So the
Oh,
graph
that's
covered this,
interesting.
and that's just a very interesting little fun fact.
Yeah, oh, wow.
I thought that was a very cool fact for the day. Okay, let's go back to Chazara in Shabbos.
Okay.
Chaf Gimel.
That's where I started. Okay. We may not soak aphithia in warm water, but we may put it into vinegar. We may not soak vetches not to rub them, but one may put them into a sieve or into a basket. We may not sift straw with a sieve, nor we put it on a high place so that the shaft will drop, but we may take it up to a sieve and pour it into the feeding trough. We may sweep out the feeding trough from before a stall ox, and we may move it up to the side because of the excretum. These are the words of Dosa, but the sages prohibit it. We may take feed from one before one animal and place it before another on Shabbos. Straw that is on the bed, we may not move it with his hand, but he may move it with his body. And if it was a fodder for animals or a pillow or a sheet was over it, he may move it with his hand. A householder's clothes press we may undo, but we may not press down. And a laundry's press, however, one may not touch. Rabbi Yehuda says if it was undone before Shabbos, we may undo it completely and remove it.
Okay. Fine. Hey, base.
A donkey may go out with a saddle cloth when it is tied to it. Rams may go out strapped. Even if ewes may go out exposed, tied, or covered up, and she-goats may go out with their udders tied. Rabbi Yossi forbids all of them except the ewes covered up. Rabbi Yehuda says she-goats may go out with their udders tied to dry up and not for the milk. And with what may we not go out? A camel may not go out with a patch on its tail, nor with his foreleg and hind legs chained together, nor with his foreleg bent back to the shoulder, and it is with all other animals. So one may not tie camels to one another and lead them, but he may gather ropes into his hand and lead them, provided he does not wind the ropes around one another. A donkey may not go out with a saddle cloth when it is not tied to it, nor with a belt, even if it is plugged, nor with a ladder on its neck, nor with a strap on its leg. Um, Chickens may not go out with cords, nor with straps on their legs. Rams may not go out with a wagon net under their fat tail. Ewes may not go out with henna chips on their nose. A calf may not go out with a little yoke or a cow with a hedgehog skin, nor with a strap between her horns. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says, the cow, Eliezer ben Ariah's cow used to go out with a strap between the horns without the consent of the Kohanim. Okay.
Hey.
Okay. And Chumos. Chumos. Okay. Um, if a doubt of uncleanness arose concerning a jar of truma, Rabbi Eliezer says if it was lying in an exposed place, he should put it in a hidden place. If it was uncovered, he should cover it. But Rabbi Shua says if it lay in a hidden place, he should put it in an exposed place. And if it was covered, he should uncover it. And Rabbi Gamil says let him do nothing new about it. Where the jar was broken in the upper part of the press and the lower part is unclean, Reb Eliezer and Reb Shua agree that if he can save it from one clean revive, he should save it. If not, Reb Eliezer says let it descend and become unclean, and let him not make it unclean with his hands. So too, if a jar of oil was upset, Reb Eliezer and Reb Shua agree that if he can save it from one's clean revive it, he should save it. But if not, Reb Eliezer says let it descend, be absorbed, and let him not gather it up with his hands. Okay. Most. If one movement to the sides and three lugan of water drained out of it, it is valid. However, if he removed it and three lugan drained out of it, it is invalid. Reb Shimon declares it valid because he had no intention to draw water. If one placed jars on a roof to draw them out and they fill with rainwater, Reb Eliezer says it is a rainy season, or if there is a small amount of water in the pit, he can break the jars. Otherwise, he cannot break them, and Rabbi Yeshua says in any case he can either break them or tilt them, but he may not pour out the water. If a plasterer forgot his pot in the cistern and he filled it with water, when the water flows over it, even a little, he can break it. Otherwise, he cannot break it. So says Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Shua says in either case, he can break it. Right.
Right.
We have food. Okay. Olive oil. What is valid for the red cow is invalid for the decapitated heifer. What is valid for the decapitated heifer is invalid for the red cow. What is fit Kohanim is unfit for Levites. What is fit for Levites is unfit for Kohanim. What is tahor in earthenware utensils is tamei in all of the utensils, and what is tahor in all of the utensils is tamei in earthenware utensils. What is tahor in wooden vessels is tamei in metal vessels, and what is tahor in metal vessels is tamei in wooden vessels. What is subject to tithing in bitter almonds is exempt in sweet ones. What is subject to tithing in sweet ones is exempt to bitter ones. Tamei, that's right.
Good, yeah.
Tamad, tamad. Tamad, as long as it is not fermented, it may not be purchased with tithe money, and it renders a mikvah unfit. After it has fermented, it may be purchased with tithe money, and it does not render a mikvah unfit. Brothers who are partners, when they're obligated to pay a korban, they are exempt from the animal tithe. And when they're obligated to give the animal tithe, they're exempt from the korban. Whenever there is a right of sale, there is no fine imposed, and whenever there is a fine imposed, there is no right of sale. Whenever there is a refusal, there is no chalitza. Whenever there's chalitza, there is no refusal. Wherever there is a horn blast, there is no havdalah. And wherever there is a havdalah, there is no horn blast. If a festival falls on the eve of Shabbos, the horn is sounded, and no havdalah is recited on the departure of the Sabbath. Havdalah is recited, and the horn is not sounded. How do we recite havdalah? Who distinguishes between the holy and the holy? Rabdosa says between greater holiness and lesser holiness. Okay.
One more.
All right. If one slaughters by cutting one of the organs of a bird or both organs of an animal, his slaughtering is valid. If the greater part of one organ is tantamount to its entirety, Rabbi Yehuda says, until he serves the veritin. If he severs one of the four organs of a bird or one and a half organs of an animal, his slaughtering is invalid. If he severs the greater part of one organ of a bird or the greater part of both organs of an animal, his slaughter is valid.
Okay.
And nausea. Okay. Okay, above olive. Three matters are forbidden to a nazir: truma, head shaving, and products of the grapevine. All products of the grapevine may be combined with one another, and he is not liable until he eats an olive, the bulk of grapes. According to the earlier Mishnah, until he drinks a revius of wine. But Akiva says even if he soaked his bread in wine and there's enough in it to add up to an olive bulk, he is liable. He is liable for wine by itself, for grapes by themselves, for grape seeds by themselves, and for grape skins by themselves. But Elliot the Ben says he is not liable until he eats two grape seeds and two grape skins and a grape skin. What are karsanim, on which are zagam? The karsagam are the outer part, the zagam are the inner part. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says, in order that you not err, it is like a zug bell of an animal, and the outer part is called zug, and the inner part inbol. Standard Naziris is for 30 days. If he shaves his head or if his band is shaved it, he forfeits for 30 days. A Nazir who shaved whether with a scissor or with a razor or by plucking a minute amount is liable. A Nazir may rub or scratch his head, but he may not comb it. Rabbi Yishmael says he may not rub it with earth since it causes the hair to fall out.
Ad cut.
That didn't happen to me.
Yeah, okay. You reckon
Have
you'd
a great day.
have an easy time as a Nazir.
Right. Have a great day. Thank you.
Cheers.